Spurs
Yeah.
last night played a competitive basketball game. That's about as much credit we should give them. They were at least competitive all the way through and had themselves in a position to win it, and might have actually pulled things out, but for a couple of strange plays. I don't know why the decision was made for Jeremy Sohan to take that late three that would have tied it. Of all the guys on the court, probably the least likely uh, to make a
Devin
three.
took one that would have won it.
Yeah, but that one I'm not going to question. I'm not
I agree.
mad.
Yeah.
That was the appropriate one, but there was one a little bit earlier. Wemby was well, Wemby's been scouted. We got to just say it. There is film on Wemby, and the way that you defend him is put somebody on a little bit smaller than he is. You don't have to be tall, but you got to be strong, and just get in there and muscle him all game long. And Wemby hasn't been able to figure out how to extricate himself from anybody who decides to play a little bit of Velcro defense. And we saw it with Dylan Brooks yesterday, and we saw it with Sabonis before. We've seen some guys defend him, and last night showed it. Now Wemby did other things. Did you see there was a crossover bounce pass down the lane in the first quarter that was one of the more ridiculous bits of highlights that Wemby has had all season long. He shook
Yes, but
Dylan Brooks, shook him, ball faked him, shook him, cracked ankles. A 7'5" dude just did that, and then bounced
yes,
past to Tre for a layup. Beautiful.
and I know this is not what you're doing, but we got to stop like just finding the one Wemby, oh my gosh, Super Saiyan highlight and overlooking the rest. Again, I know that's not what you're
No.
doing.
What I'm getting at is he tried to offer more because I think he sees what's happening. And there's a broader discussion that I think we need to have about the future of Wemby and what he's going to be. But right now, I think the Spurs lost last night because, one, the Houston Rockets defend the Spurs as good as anybody in the league. And that's not saying a whole lot, but the Spurs always have trouble with Houston. One, I think that was one of the issues last night. And, well, we'll just leave it. I think that was the primary issue. We'll address things as they do move along. Post game was not a pretty place for the Spurs because you hate to walk out of a locker room thinking you actually had an opportunity. Wemby, when asked how the Rockets played him, talked about the physicality that the Rockets brought to the game.
The physicality, the energy. It's every night a challenge, but this is a very aggressive team defensively. So this was hard.
It was hard.
So Wemby, I think is experience. He's hit the wall.
I think there might be something to that, RJ. I think we are coming to a point where he's in a physical place where he's never been before.
Yeah, and not hit the proverbial rookie wall of ceiling on production limits, but just the wall of being tired. Like we were talking a minute ago about being exhausted, in the mornings or whatever. Like there comes a time where you're just going through the physical mode. Work just happens to be, being one of the best basketball players in the world. Last 3 games, obviously I know a lot of people like to look at last 5. The last 3 games is the Houston sandwich with the Golden State game in between, the one that we lost. The first one obviously got kind of worked, had a -12 plus minus -1 against the Dubs, and then had a +5 last night. Still rebounding well, but the 3 ball has really gone away. So he entered this 3-game stretch coming off going 5 for 7 against Oklahoma City and 6 of 7 against Indiana. But I'm sorry, 5 of 7 and 3 of 4. Not 3. So I read free throw lines. So he was over 70%, 71% and 75% from beyond the arc in those 2 games. And then 2 of 5 against the Rockets the first time around, 3 of 9 against the Warriors, 2 of 7 last night. I mean, when you're not, making them from downtown, now if you are tired, you're having to do a lot more work in the paint and grind those points out. And it just kind of makes sense for him to start wearing down a little bit.
And that's going to be one of the fundamental questions I think the Spurs are going to have to deal with over the near future is, we're watching how the NBA, at least now, has decided to defend him. That they're going to, muscle him. They're going to, be very physical with him. And the obvious things, the double team's always going to be quick to come from the weak side, but it's the physicality that he's going to have to get used to. So to address that, does his crew that involves, his physiotherapist and chef and all that, and looking at his frame, are they going to decide maybe he does need just a little bit more weight to kind of get him through the wear and tear of the way that this game is going to be physical? And do they address it immediately? Or do you look at him like he's a 20-year-old guy? And the big difference between a 20-year-old and a 24-year-old is in your metabolism changes, man. It just does. And he's going to put on weight just because he's aging. And do you wait on that? But if you wait on that and, don't push the weights and actively try to put on the pounds, he's going to suffer physically. He's going to look tired and battered because he's going through a boxing match now. He's taking shots to the ribs in the middle of the game. He's getting leaned on constantly. And that is the wear and tear of the basketball season that you don't notice. Just the things you got to do now when that's the way they want to defend you. When before, yeah, it's a lot of fun running off curbs, picks, and not getting hit very hard and taking fadeaway threes. It's not nearly as physically taxing as it is having a Dylan Brooks leaning on you for 20 minutes a night.
I agree with you, obviously. And if you have hopes like we do for the Spurs to be playing deep into the postseason in the future, that's going to change really quickly, right? Like we talk about a lot of things that have to change for the Spurs to be a playoff team next year, challenging for the playoffs. Well, this is among those things. I mean, it's last night was March 12th. You can't be wearing down this badly then. And I think it makes, if somebody was confused why he needed the time off last week, makes it a little bit more obvious. Like when you start to put together all of the pieces of the puzzle,
right,
it's really clear that he's not exactly, in his best physical space. When do you think was the last moment that the Spurs held a positive win probability in this game?
Middle of the gosh, because they were behind a lot. I mean, it wasn't. They gave it up in the middle of the third. I'd say 8 minutes of the third.
Oh man, I thought you were gonna get it. It was 8:38 left in the fourth.
Of the fourth,
when they were up by one. Hit a 55% win probability. Then it went Houston's way and never bent back. Let me ask you, Rob, what is your favorite Bruno Mars song?
What's the one where you have to get the stretch? Where's Julio get the stretch? Which one is that?
Well, there are a lot of right answers, to be very clear.
And that wasn't it.
Bruno rocks. A great Bruno song is "When I Was Your Man."
Yeah.
And one of the, I know you know that.
Yeah.
One of the lines in there is, he's talking about, when I was your man, whatever. And he says, I should have bought you flowers and held your hand. And I think that we should have bought Tre Jones flowers. There's a comment in the Brigade Bar from Goldfinger123. Says, give flowers to Tre Jones. We should have bought them. Last night was an impressive night for Tre. 24 points. Kind of the heartbeat of the team, I think, in what was an almost win. You're rolling your eyes. You don't want to go back in time and buy Tre Jones flowers.
No, I don't.
Wow.
Because one of the things about playing with the big boys is when they don't always take what they give you. The reason he had 24 points is because Van Vliet was running away from him every time they got to half court to go double on Wemby. There's a reason why you had a lot of opportunities last night. And if you're going to get those opportunities, you need to capitalize on more of them.
Wow.
So, yeah, congratulations. You took advantage. You were wide open all night long. And he had some shots in the lane. No, I'm being real here. Yes, he did exactly what a backup point guard in the NBA does. But a starting NBA point guard looks at that and goes, we got to find another way to get Wemby involved. I know that I'm open, but let me tell you, if I'm taking shots, I am plan C. And he needs to understand that. So when it's wide open for you, yes, they're doing that for a reason. The way we win basketball games is to ensure Wemby touches the ball enough to get, 14 points.
Look, it's okay to say that Tre had a good game.
No, he had a good game.
It's okay to understand give him his flowers.
Why the Spurs lost, though. He had a good game, but one of I'm not.
You can give him a flower here.
Here's a flower.
Thank you.
And he didn't play horribly, but understand how we got to where we are.
He played well.
He
It's okay to say
did.
that.
But when
No,
Wemby,
you're changing. You keep changing it. You
only
keep saying he
had
didn't play horribly.
13.
He played well. He played well, and that's okay to say out loud.
Okay, I'll give you that. But just because you score some points doesn't mean you played well. That means you made some baskets.
Baby.
He was
that means
again
you
like
made baskets.
the only reason the Spurs were. You talked about how they were kind of competitive and kind of in the game. Like he was maybe not the only reason. He was among the main reasons on a night where Wemby was. I don't want to say a ghost or absent, but clearly not his full self, as we've been talking about here. In those moments, you need the Tre Joneses of the world to step up and be the straw that stirs the drink, and he was. And never hear like, I guess, I mean, he existed. He got some cardio work in. Like, dude, come on, jeez.
Okay, here. Later
You don't have to.
No,
you don't
no,
have to. Just because you give him flowers doesn't mean you're long-term committed. You can give him flowers.
He had a good
you
game.
throw in a pack of chocolates
But
at this
in
rate.
the end,
Geez.
they lost, and one of the reasons they lost is this guy named Victor Wembanyama only scored 13 points. Now,
That's
some
not
of it
Tre
is
Jones's fault.
Yes, it is. See, therein lies the rub. It is. To some extent, it is indeed his fault. You have to take it upon yourself as the guy in control of the ball to be that quarterback. Sometimes you've got to force feed things. Sometimes you got to run the ball in the first quarter to get nothing, knowing in the fourth quarter, when they're wore out, you'll get the 4 that you need. Sometimes you got to do things planning on the future. And backup point guards, young point guards, only think about now. So I get where you are. And for where he is, yes, congratulations. But we lost. And one of the reasons we lost was Victor Wembanyama only had 13 points. And there were a variety of touches where we saw the guy who was having a good game keep the ability for the superstar to have a great game. So let's not give flowers for a modicum of success when you made some buckets. He played
don't have
okay.
To blame Tre for
I'm not
Wemby's
blaming him,
poor night.
but I understand
you're making the faults of the whole game to be and like you're actually refusing to give him legitimate credit because the other things didn't work out, and that like to place that amount of responsibility on Tre is unfair. Like if you want to place that amount of responsibility,
it's his job.
I mean, it is his job, but like it's not practical, relative to this moment. Like what we know Tre to be and what we saw on Tuesday night, it's fair to say that Tre Jones, I think, over-delivered. He did more than is normally expected of him. And because of that, the Spurs almost won this game. He was one of the only Spurs who over-delivered on Tuesday night. He was let down. His great performance was let down by his teammates. It's okay to give him some flowers.
The Rockets have won 4 straight road games, winning just 5 of their previous 29 games prior to that. Wemby went 13 and 10 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 blocks. That's 2 straight games with only 2 blocks. This is the 9th game with at least 10 and 10 and then 5 and multiple blocks, the 3rd most by a rookie since way back when. And you know who did it? The great Alvin Adams did it 15 times. Bill Walton did it 12 times. Wemby now has 9 consecutive games with 10 and 10, becoming the first rookie since the big cat, Karl Anthony Towns, and 60.
Ooh, great question from Cujo77 in the Brigade Bar. So we're okay if Wemby gets 24 and Tre gets 13 and we lose by 2. We're okay with that. Let's go, Rob.
We are. In this era, yes. This went a direction.
I can't go with you here, dude.
I look at it like the Spurs accomplished the plan. They lost the game. I mean, we don't want to add another ping pong, take away any ping pong ball. We don't want to do anything. They lost the game and we're competitive till the end, yes. But
okay,
sometimes
when
we used to play, I want you to put things in perspective. There was a time when the Spurs were good, and we would play teams like, and the first one that comes to mind was Oklahoma City when Russell was still there, and OKC would roll in here, and Pop would say, you know what, Russell, triple double, get whatever the hell you want. It is your night, and we're going to allow you to do as you please. Now nobody else can. But you, Russell, are headed for a wonderful night. And Russell would go out and get 35 and get his triple-double, and OKC would lose by 7. Because Pop understood. Yeah, let Russell be Russell. Just go do it. One guy, that's fine.
But
don't
then
get
you
lost
can't blame
in the
Tre
numbers.
for the team losing.
Yes,
if the
you
overall
can when you go. If
no,
you
you're talking out
shot
of both
to the
sides of your
detriment
mouth. You
of an
can't have it
assist.
both ways.
No,
you can't say that they failed to win because they didn't win, and that's on Tre. He didn't
No,
facilitate properly.
I
He
am
didn't set
giving the
Wemby up
flowers,
properly,
but
and
this
then
was
say
a game
and then
they
compared to
could have
Russell
won.
Wilson. In that respect, was the Spurs win against the Thunder a failure, or was the Thunder, was Russell's performance against the Spurs a success? Like you're creating a world where everything and nothing is true simultaneously.
You're trying to give somebody credit for something that is just their job, and when they did their job, they didn't do it absolutely correctly.
How could he have done it absolutely correctly
your
when,
point
by
guard
your own
getting
admission,
24
the code
points
red
is
was
not a
ordered?
prescription to win.
I don't understand what could have been accomplished then, like to have been worthy of flowers relative to the terminology we're using here.
I mean, you're 24 points from Tre Jones is not that's not how the Spurs are going to win basketball games.
Nobody is saying that, but what we're saying is he had a good game.
He
was one of the best players on the team. He might have been the best player on the team on Tuesday night.
But his job is to have a good game because others did. He had a good game to the detriment of others, and that's okay on really certain instances. No, I'm saying there's progress to be made, and what the progress that we need from Tre isn't proving that you can go get 24. That's not it. The progress that we need to see from Tre Jones is when the defense presents you with a problem where you can't get it, or at least by their design are trying to keep you from getting it to the guy who you need to get it, find a way to get it to him. That's the defensive struggle. Now, he took the easy road out, and he capitalized on it. Congratulations. You did it. You got 24. But the intent of your job was to not need to get 24, find a way to get 10 assists, find a way to get the superstar involved.
But that again, he tried. I mean, Wemby missed 7 shots. And how is that on Tre?
How many?
7. I mean,
you just answered the problem.
That's not on Tre. Like, it's not Tre's fault that Wemby had an off night. I mean,
so it's not CeeDee Lamb's fault when he doesn't get any targets.
It
is exactly the same thing.
But that's an entirely different discussion. I mean, Brian says in the Brigade Bar, so Wemby misses 5 threes and it's Tre Jones' fault. Like
it's Wemby's job to take those shots. And no, it's not his fault that he misses them. No, I'm not saying he needed to take 8 threes. I don't know how many threes he took. He needed to take more.
He missed 5. He was 2 of 7 from
downtown. Another one. Take another one.
He could take another one. I'm fine with that. But I mean, again, Tre had a very good game. We can say that within the vacuum of what Tuesday night was. Understanding the context
what I'm
of
telling
everything,
you is, don't confuse a good game with baskets made. Those are 2 entirely different categories. He made some baskets. He scored 24 points. Was it a good game by that measure? By how many points did he score? Yes. In totality, I had a problem with the guy that is the future of the team that everything relies on not getting the ball enough. It's still a problem. And it's not just him.
I don't think that you can blame Tre for that then.
It's not just him. Well, I can blame everybody. But he's the guy with the ball in his hand more than anybody else. And our star, how many shots again?
I think this is he was 5 of 12, Wemby. He was 2 of 7 from downtown.
Shots?
Okay, but you can't, you're holding Tre to this ridiculous standard. And that would be fine if we were talking about Trae Young, but we're not. And so we're putting this expectation on Tre Jones, and on a night where he did
Wemby
his
is
job.
inordinate.
No, I think he did his job, and Wemby didn't live up to it. So Tre did take advantage and capitalized and scored himself and kept the Spurs in the game. And you're knocking him for the points being in his column and not Wemby's.
Yes,
if the Spurs had lost the exact same way, but Wemby had been the one with, what did Tre finish on the night with 24 points? Then is it fine? If you know what I mean? Good for Tre for finding a way to mitigate Wemby's off night.
He mitigated it the wrong way. He mitigated it, and I'm giving you that.
Again, I think that would be a fair thing to say about one of the best point guards in the NBA. If they, knew what they were doing, it would be fair to hold them to that really, really, really high standard. But Tre Jones is dealing with
this isn't the first time he's dealt with stars and getting him the ball. You know what? He took and made some buckets, and he did play a good game. Spurs lost, and the superstar touched the ball 12 times, took 12 shots. Now, it's not just his fault, everybody else on the team, but you can't walk out at the end of a game and see Wemby. Can you imagine walking off the court and seeing, I don't know, Steve Kerr took, I don't know how many shots he got, 24. Michael Jordan touched the ball 12 times, took 12 shots. Well, we'd be looking at Kerr going, what the hell, man? What the hell? Why didn't Michael touch the ball? But we can't say that about Wemby. Why did Wemby only touch the ball 12 times? Some of it's on him, demand it. Some of it's on other guys. But we all have to focus on the goal here. So, yeah, you got 24. I'm happy for you. Congratulations. You made some buckets.
I think you're being really unfair to Tre Jones.
I'm being precisely what should be treated. Congratulations.
He tried to get Wemby involved, and Wemby sucked. And that's not his fault. And he managed to help the team remain competitive in spite of Wemby having an off night. That is great adaptation mid-game.
And I want to blame him, but I don't have the video in front of me. Who passed the ball to Jeremy Sohan to take the 3 to tie the game?
Man, dude, like
who's
the
fact
that you're
all
like, oh,
the guys on the court?
But I definitely want to blame Tre Jones for this.
I'm not. If it was Tre, I got more blame to give you. And some of it's on you, Jeremy. Maybe that's not your shot to take, though. You were fairly kind of open. But sometimes you got to go consider who's about to take that shot and consider why you're there. Jeremy Sohan was our 3-point option in that instance. It was infuriating.
Tre Jones,
he lobbed up an air ball.
I've got your back. Rob is, maybe have another cup of coffee, Rob.
And there might be a greater concern here. Why is the offense sputtering with Devin and Victor? That's 2 straight games where it's not looking right.
Because they're not very good, and they're running on fumes at this point in time. And what a weird thing that like the offense struggled when the generational superstar had a bad night. Oh man. And then the nerve of the point guard to try to help out and do something on his own. What a huge jerk, according to Rob Thompson.
You're going to have to do better, son.